You're listening to the Power Agent Blogcast, empowering agents to elevate their business to the next level.
Challenges are just a guide, leading you, don't run and hide. You've got the heart, you've got the drive, feel it pound, you're alive. Power Agent.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into one of the most maddening yet surprisingly common obstacles in any high-performance field. We're talking about the capable person who is utterly, completely stuck. I mean, you know the scenario. Maybe you're prepping for a huge project in your own career, or maybe you're leading a team, and there's that one person, so talented, huge potential, who keeps saying they're trying, but, well, nothing happens. They just procrastinate, they delay, they promise more calls tomorrow. So we dug into a stack of sources on elite coaching, on behavioral psychology, and we analyzed why this gridlock actually happens. Our mission today is to get past the symptoms, the inaction, and really analyze the 4 core psychological blocks that are paralyzing them.
And that psychological piece is everything. We have to start by just rejecting the easy answer, because when a really capable person stalls, leaders almost always assume it's a lack of effort or discipline or, just plain laziness.
That's the default.
But the sources, they reveal something way more nuanced. The professional, the agent. They're not stuck because they lack drive. They're stuck because, on a really deep subconscious level, something inside them feels intensely threatened.
A threat.
Yes. And that internal threat assessment is what's causing the paralysis.
And that's the crucial distinction, isn't it? Because if a leader doesn't see that internal threat, that the inaction is actually a protection mechanism, what do?
They ramp up the pressure.
Exactly. Which is the worst possible thing. The source material is just full of warnings against what they call overcoaching or, let's be honest, just micromanagement. So our task is to understand that inner block so we can coach the person, not just police their to-do list.
Exactly. So let's dive into these 4 roadblocks. The first one is, it's silent, it's insidious, and it's almost always mistaken for apathy. It's learned helplessness.
Learned helplessness. Okay, so this comes after enough negative conditioning, right? Like an agent who's had a really bad run of luck. They lost 3 listings. A big buyer ghosted them.
Exactly. After enough of those negative experiences that feel totally out of your control, the mind just stops trying to find control.
The nervous system gets stuck in this loop that just whispers, why even bother? So they're not rebelling. They've just been subconsciously taught to expect failure.
They've psychologically surrendered. And what's fascinating is how the leader sees this surrender and immediately thinks, I need to boost their skills, or I need more accountability.
Right. Let's get you into a training session.
But if you push someone in that state by demanding 50 more cold calls, you're just confirming their core belief that the task is impossible, that effort is pointless. You actually increase the resistance.
So what's the solution then?
It's totally counterintuitive. You have to shrink the scope drastically. You're not trying to fix the result. You're trying to reboot their internal confidence engine by giving them undeniable proof of control.
You mean like facilitating these tiny controllable wins?
Precisely. We're talking tactical. Instead of fix your pipeline, the commitment is practice a 3-line script 5 times in the mirror.
That's it.
Or deliver 1 single CMA this week. The goal isn't the big outcome. It's giving them tangible, immediate proof that they can still move the needle, that their effort still matters. It's like a nervous system reset.
Wow. Okay, that completely reframes it. That's not instruction. It's almost therapeutic. All right, let's move to the second block, which is purely emotional. Fear-based avoidance. This is probably the one that's most relatable for you listening. When someone avoids picking up the phone, they aren't avoiding the task itself. They're avoiding the emotion attached to it.
Right. The usual suspects are, fear of rejection, judgment, embarrassment. That's common knowledge.
But the sources went deeper.
This is where it gets really interesting and where leaders so often miss the boat. The sources emphasize that people are also avoiding the strong, disruptive emotions tied to success.
Avoiding success. That sounds completely backward for a driven person. What are they actually afraid of?
Success changes things. And change is a threat. If they become a top producer, they might fear isolation from their current friends who aren't at that level. They fear the crushing weight of new expectations. If I succeed once, I have to succeed always. They're avoiding the emotional burden of carrying a new, higher status identity.
So silence becomes a defense mechanism against a future threat of more pressure.
Exactly. And fear is this ancient, wired-in human response. The coaching strategy here isn't to try and get rid of the fear. That's a fool's errand. The key insight is that silence is the enemy. Once fear is acknowledged, verbalized, it loses its power.
So what does a leader do? You don't just say, suck it up and make the call.
No, you give them safe language. You help them say, I know this is important, and honestly, I'm scared of hearing no again. Once that's out in the open, the leader can pivot. Okay, I hear that fear. We're going to take action with the fear, not wait for it to disappear.
Acknowledge the threat, but move the body anyway.
That small act of courage with support is what builds resilience.
That really separates coaching from just managing, doesn't it? Okay, let's shift gears. We've covered blocks from failure conditioning and emotional avoidance. Now let's get into self-perception, starting with identity conflict. This is where your personal history just slams right into your professional ambition. People freeze up when they get close to the behaviors they need for huge growth because the results they say they want clash with the identity they're subconsciously holding on to.
The sources have incredible examples of this. The agent who was raised to avoid conflict, for them, a high-stakes negotiation doesn't just feel hard, it feels morally wrong.
Oh, that's powerful.
Or maybe they see themselves as the helper, the supportive teammate. So shifting into the role of the expert who commands attention and high fees feels egotistical.
Yeah.
It feels pushy.
Or even that success itself feels like stepping out of line if they've never been in a leadership role before.
Precisely, and that internal fight is what paralyzes them. This is so tightly linked to imposter syndrome. That feeling that you're a fraud, that you don't deserve it. Their current identity acts like a thermostat. They will subconsciously sabotage any behavior that pushes them too far outside their comfort zone.
That makes so much sense. If the person I think I am, the quiet helper, doesn't match the person I need to be, the decisive expert, then yeah, progress just stops cold. But that's a huge challenge for a leader. I mean, isn't it just easier to coach skills than to try and manage someone's whole internal story?
It's absolutely easier. But the skills won't stick if the core identity rejects them. The leader's role here, according to all the research, is to help them rewrite that story. You reframe the behavior so it aligns with their existing values.
How do you do that?
You show them that asking for business isn't pushy, it's providing a vital service. That visibility isn't self-promotion, it's maximizing their reach to help more people. Behavior only aligns with goals when your identity aligns with those goals. That's the leverage point.
Which takes us right into the final block, the flip side of this. Performance shame. The sources said this is incredibly common for people with really high standards, or people who've been massively successful in the past and are now in a slump.
Yes, these agents are desperately avoiding exposure. Taking action creates data, wins and failures. And for someone in a state of performance shame, a lost deal isn't just a business setback. It's seen as confirmation of their deepest fear. I am fundamentally not good enough. They stall to avoid validating their own self-judgment.
So it's an existential crisis playing out in their work, and a leader's instinct is to push for more productivity, right?
Yeah.
More metrics.
Which just raises the stakes and makes the shame worse. What these people need isn't more pressure. They need permission to be imperfect. The leader has to step in and actively normalize failure. Remind them that every top producer failed 10 times more than they succeeded.
You have to help them draw that solid emotional line in the sand.
Yes. Separate self-worth from outcomes. Once that emotional link between a failed deal and their personal value is loosened, they can perform again. The stakes are no longer existential, they're just business.
Okay, so we've got the 4 blocks: learned helplessness, fear-based avoidance, identity conflict, and performance shame. The big takeaway here is that stuck people don't need hand-holding. They need clarity, structure, and psychological safety. A safe space to fail forward. That's leadership, not babysitting.
And that leads us to the 6 pillars of effective coaching that came out of all this. This is the roadmap for leading without, becoming a crutch.
All right, pillar 1. Let's hear it.
First, focus on patterns, not stories. The mind is a story-generating machine. A new excuse every week, the market, a sick relative, a confusing client.
The stories are always compelling, though. So how do you tell the difference between a genuinely bad week and a psychological pattern?
You look for repetition. If they avoid prospecting this week because of the market, and next week they avoid writing a contract because the printer's broken, the story changes, but the pattern of avoidance is the same. The pattern reveals the real resistance. The story is just the smokescreen.
Understood. What's the second pillar?
Second, set mutually agreed upon commitments, not vague goals. Try harder is meaningless. It just feeds learned helplessness.
So be specific.
A commitment like, I will initiate 3 conversations with past clients by Friday at 5 p.m. That is actionable, it's measurable, and it puts the power back in their hands.
How do you make that feel like a commitment and not an ultimatum?
It has to be mutual. The leader asks, what can you commit to that you're 90% sure you can do? You let them set the bar, even if it feels low. Then you review it as data. You committed to 3, you did 2. What did we learn? No shame, just pattern recognition.
Okay, so that leads right into the third pillar.
Which is just. Create pathways for small wins. We already touched on this, but it's fundamental. Small, successful movements are the building blocks of confidence. They replace why bother with I can do this one little thing.
And that's tied right into number 4, which is to shift the conversation from performance to identity.
Exactly. Who they believe they are determines what they'll do. You have to step back from the metrics and ask, what needs to be true about you to make this action feel authentic? You constantly remind them they are not defined by this quarter's numbers.
Which brings us to the emotional side of things. Pillar 5, normalize fear and discomfort.
Growth requires both. I mean, if you're totally comfortable, you aren't growing. The leader has to say out loud, if you're nervous about this next step, it means you're doing it right. That changes the internal story from I'm a failure because I'm scared to I'm courageous because I'm moving forward while scared.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, and the final pillar, number 6.
Celebrate effort as much as results. This might be the most powerful one for sustained motivation. Results are often out of our direct control, right? The market, the client, a competitor. But effort is always controllable.
And celebrating the effort reinforces the positive behavior.
Exactly. It reinforces the pattern you want to see, and it fights both learned helplessness and performance shame at the same time.
That roadmap, I mean, going from pattern recognition all the way to identity alignment, it's truly transformative. When leaders coach the psychology, they aren't carrying the person. They're just showing them the door and giving them the key to unlock it themselves. So let's bring this back to you, the listener. What does all this mean for you when you feel stuck? That feeling of paralysis, it doesn't mean you're failing. It just means you're human. Every expert, every high achiever hits these moments where the internal blocks just try to slam the brakes on.
And remember the core solution here. Progress, not perfection. You don't need some giant, terrifying leap. You just need one small, controllable step. Make one call. Write one email, organize one folder. That tiny verifiable action is the only fuel you need to beat helplessness and build real confidence. The real job of a leader, and of you, as your own guide, is to see beneath the surface of procrastination. When you stop seeing stuck as a lack of discipline and start seeing it as a psychological defense mechanism, everything changes. You unlock a whole new path to resilience.
So here's our final thought for you to carry with you. Think about the last professional hurdle that really, truly paralyzed you. When you felt that resistance, was the obstacle really external? Was the market really that bad or the task that overwhelming? Or was it, at its core, a form of identity conflict? Was the successful version of you somehow threatening to the you of right now? That internal conversation,
Yeah.
That's where the path forward always begins.
Let's move forward today. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.